you see some of the Montreal media pointing this out about Carey Price. There are people saying, and it's very rare to do this in Montreal, but they are criticizing some of Carey Price's play because I believe his save percentage is under 900.
I think it's 885. It's poor.
Now, is that from what you've seen? Because from what I've seen, I still see the same Carey Price. Is it just that this is a better team?
It's a better team, and the narrative. Too many people are gotcha, told you. With some people are doing it with the Habs, but people are doing it specifically with Carey Price, and it's wrong. I think it's wrong. You can look at the playoffs and go, it's a hot streak. I look at it as a guy who was pretty mediocre during the regular season. He's turned it on for the playoffs, and he's been great. And all of a sudden, he's turned into a pumpkin. Well, why? And this is what I often do with the Leafs. And when I was talking about Freddie for a while, particularly 2 years ago, actually, I'm like, okay, his numbers are garbage. Let's look at each individual goal that goes in, though, because we're able to do that. We know what all the goals are. There are no mystery goals. They were all on TV and 4K and all that. And Carey Price was screened on the first two goals. Should have maybe had one of them. Maybe he could fight his way through a screen. The Ruda shot he never saw. Not a chance.
And really, it was pinpoint accuracy. I don't think Jan Ruda even thought he could shoot like that.
Yeah, Sorelli set up a really good screen on the second goal. Third goal's a 2-on-0. That can't happen. And then 2 minutes later, nope, we got to clean that up. You allow a 2-on-1. It can't happen.
For you to for a lot of fans to make the egregious statement that, Carey Price is bad now, you have to be able to point out specific goals where it's entirely his fault. And that hasn't happened in these playoffs. Like, he hasn't been responsible for just overly bad goals. So he's not bad. It's just a good team.
And that's not to say he hasn't allowed bad goals, but they've got 5 goals in 3 games, and Carey Price is the reason you're losing?
Yeah.
Get out of my face.
Well, and beyond that part too is the whole thing about, like, look at what Tampa has done to every other team. The only team they did not do this to were the Islanders. That was the only team. And there were games where they did it to the Islanders, but the Islanders were able to give it back. Nobody, even in, like, Canadiens fans can talk all they want. Nobody thought the Canadiens were going to the Stanley Cup Final this year. Nobody thought that. So it's been a fun run. But at the same time, you got to understand that when you are a Cinderella story, you're Cinderella for a reason. You shouldn't be there. And you don't have the talent on paper to be there. You're there. You got there. It's great. But at the same time, you got to remember there's going to be a huge differential in talent. And I think it's unfair to point the blame at Carey Price. Maybe his numbers are low. But I think that there's just a lack of depth in Montreal in comparison to what Tampa has. And I think sometimes the team's just better.
I think it's just Tampa, man.
Yeah, they're just Tampa. Great. Now, keep going, Steve, on that, because I want to keep going. I got to open a window in here. I'm going to fry to death. Hang on.
Okay. I'm having a very difficult time really criticizing anything Montreal's doing. Today they're talking about, like, Ducharme's lineup decisions, things of that nature. Oh, puppy. Oh, that's a kitty. Whose kitty is that?
Teddy?
That's Teddy. That's Teddy the cat. That's my girlfriend's cat, Teddy.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, he's cute.
Anyway,
anyways, Montreal.
There's some lineup decisions. To me, that's all very, like, micro.
Can we go over those?
Yeah,
sure. Ones tonight.
You should,
because they're surprising. Okay.
Oh yeah. Okay. To me, it's all very micro. If you look at them over the course of the entire playoffs, like, really, really pinpoint a weakness. You could argue it's scoring, but, like, they're not the only team. And they've defended so efficiently that they've gotten this far. It's just Tampa is this goddamn battering ram.
Right.
And they don't even need a ton of opportunities. Like we saw that in game 2. I watched that entire game, and yes, maybe the numbers made Montreal look a little bit more dangerous than they really were, but Tampa was a battering ram. They needed so much less than Montreal did. So sometimes, like I go back to what Ken Reed said, like, why can't we look at a goal and talk about how cool it was rather than the defensive breakdown or whatever? I mean,
that's a good point. Yeah,
it is a good point.
I think everybody's trying to get a little hipster with why goals happen too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 2-0. I mean, 2-0 is a bit of a no-brainer, but for the most part, I'm looking at what Tampa's doing, and it's Tampa doing it. You know what I mean? They're just extraordinarily good, deep, fast. What's their weakness, really? What's their Achilles heel?
Well, and so Jesse, you wanted to mention that you've got some lineup questions about Montreal, and I have as well. But I'd like you to go through what you were going to mention here.
The main one I just look at that's surprising is Kotkaniemi. I think because he leads the team right now in 5-on-5 goals during the playoffs. I think it's surprising that you take your top goal scorer at even strength and you bring him out of the lineup when you're desperate to win a game. That is surprising to me from Jeff Ducharme.
Listen, you want to bring Jake Evans in? Cool. There's been some argument today that it should be Thomas Tatar on account of they can't bloody score. I would support that decision too. Kotkaniemi's not
Tatar just had bad luck too, because as soon as they brought him out of the lineup versus Toronto, they went 11-2 in the playoffs. How do you squeak him back in?
He's been in 2 Stanley Cup Finals over the last 4 years and been a healthy scratch both times.
Oh, that sucks.
Like, it's just a terrible. Those are the moments you dream of, and
it's a cruel game.
It's an extremely cruel game. But to me, I think I'd take a look at maybe taking Eric Stahl out, which is counterintuitive for hockey because it's the veteran and everything, and you want the veteran to play in an elimination game, and who knows if he'll ever have a chance to get this close again.
But are you going to win?
What have you done for me lately? But by my eye, he's been a relatively weak link in this final.
I got to say, too, look at the 3 games that Montreal played in the finals. Which one did they look the least composed in?
Last game. 3.
Right. And I ask you what the change was.
You don't think it was that they were at home?
No.
Oh, Dominique Ducharme?
I think Luke Richardson should be the next coach of the Montreal Canadiens. He pulled them through the end of the Vegas Golden Knights series. He did. And the most composed, let's be honest here, okay? Toronto Maple Leafs are the biggest choke artists in the league, and you can quote me on that. Everybody knows it. It's not a big statement.
Adam, why are you bringing up things that are backed up by decades of evidence?
Yeah, the Winnipeg Jets, first they lose Scheifele, but they're not that great of a team. Montreal figured them out. They're a hardworking team.
Habs would have beat them anyway.
I think Habs would have beat them anyway, for sure. Which we got to talk about Edmonton, but you, Steve, you said it last episode. The Oilers fans are running around like they're on fire. Like they're just as bad as Leaf fans right now.
Oilers fans, you have to understand. I'm so sorry, but for the entertainment value, I can't wait for this trade.
And now they're getting Duncan, sure. But then you look at the Vegas series, one that Montreal really, on paper, had no business being in. And I think they looked the best under Luke Richardson. And I'm not trying to say this to insult Dominique Ducharme. I know I've had an axe to grind with him since game 1 of the playoffs. But to be honest with you, look at that set of games that they played with Luke Richardson and tell me that they played a better stretch of games. I can guarantee you they didn't. It did not happen.
Montreal's got some very interesting decisions to make because, I mean, if you're looking for a head coach, how don't you at least go, there's Luke Richardson?
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, look at the playoff performance that they have and see, okay, so who did they do consistent? Like, because you got to do an honest assessment of your team at the end of the season. Okay, so we worked really hard. We were an incredible team, and they are. I will never take that away from this year's Canadiens. Wonderful, wonderful run. You ran up against Toronto. They choked. You won. You earned that. Winnipeg didn't stand a chance against you because you're just a deeper team, frankly, and a better constructed team.
They're better.
Vegas was a shock to everybody. It really, really was.
Underrated chokers.
Interesting you say that. What do you mean?
Back-to-back years in the conference final, they haven't been able to score a bloody goal. And the year before these back-to-backs, they had a huge lead in Game 7 and blew it. I'm sorry. If that was the Leafs, we'd be calling them chokers. They're chokers.
Wow. Okay. Steve versus the Vegas Golden Knights. Let's go.
Next year, they might not be chokers, but right now,
Well, when Jack Eichel centers Mark Stone and Max Pacioretty, I'm sure they'll be much better.
Oh, yeah.
They're going to get him. That's what they do.
I mean, that's what you need, playoff experience.
I think, a lot of credit is due to the entire Canadiens coaching staff for, they lost their head coach this year, sort of a big deal. But I think you look at, if you're Marc Bergevin, you have to look at when the team looked the best. The team looked the best against Vegas. There is no question. That was this year's this year's version of the Montreal Canadiens. That was their pinnacle, unless they can somehow pull out 4 straight wins here. And to this point, those are the best games they've played. No question.
What a genuinely
and we thought Vegas
game.
Would be a good challenge for Tampa, and Montreal beat them.
They looked pedestrian, man. I from a playoff perspective, I hated watching the Vegas Golden Knights. I hated it.
What was it? Why?
They couldn't do anything. They couldn't do anything. They just kept, they did this little east-west style in the neutral zone that got swatted every time. I'm watching their big line, expecting to be entertained. When Braden points on the ice, I adjust myself in my seat. I'm like, all right,
hey man,
let's friggin' go.
Blake Coleman this series. That guy he's been amazing.
Everybody, or like even for the Habs, like they got when Caulfield's on the ice,
you're watching.
It's like the video game meme. I sit forward in my chair. I'm ready. Vegas, I stopped doing it by like game 4. Right when I saw Mark Stone and Max Petra. All right, here's a shift off. Let me look down at my phone. I'll ask some questions, or I'll answer some questions. They were horrible. The Vegas Golden Knights, more than any other team in these playoffs, I go, how would I talk about these guys if they were the Leafs? They stunk.